coast of Newfoundland, a beautiful island off the east coast of Canada. In each episode, I'll be talking about my own designs, where I'll give you coupon codes, and I'll be talking about knitting and crochet patterns I am currently working on or have finished. So grab your crafty project and a drink, get comfy, and let's chat. Hi, and welcome back. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're a new viewer, thank you for checking me out. This is my second episode. My first one was a little on the fly. This one here also is a little on the fly. There's been a little bit of chaos the rest of this previous part of the month. Right now it's the end of September. It's September 30th. And so far in September, my computer has crashed twice. I've lost quite a bit of work and a lot of my podcast stuff. I've had a crazy month. That and everybody, excuse me, you're hearing it in my throat right now. Everybody in my family has gotten a bit of a head cold. We had the first person in my family who got sick, tested for COVID. She did not have COVID. It was just a common head cold, but anybody who presents any symptoms at the emergency room, of course, has to get tested. So she did get tested. My husband, myself, and the baby all got the head cold. I'm the last to recover. You can kind of hear it in my voice still. So fingers crossed my voice holds out. It's been pretty good this last little while, but still not feeling top notch. So that's kind of where my month has been. It's been pretty crazy. I actually did record a couple weeks ago, just before everybody got sick and just before my computer crashed. So this is kind of take two, but like 2 weeks later. So I don't even remember what I said. Lost the recording because my computer crashed. It's been a crazy month. So this is a little off the cuff. Hopefully going forward my episodes will be a little less off the cuff, but that tends to be the trend. Maybe that will be the trend. Hopefully it won't be. So let's dive right into it. So this first segment is all about introductions. I had a viewer who viewed the last episode introduce herself in the comments. And thank you so much for doing so. Like that, but thank you so much for watching. And if you're watching again, thank you so much for coming back. And let's get right into the rest of the podcast. On to the next segment. Got my duds on. So in this particular segment, I talk about what I'm wearing. So in this case, I don't know if you can see because the lighting, I'm losing a bit of light. I think you can kind of see it there. This is the Ankers tee by Petite Knits. I loved this knit. I actually chose just some cotton from Deep Stash, and I actually knit it cropped. I'll see if I can kind of, there we go. So you can kind of see a close up right there. And then I only did it just under the bust. And I did like this short sleeves, and I didn't really adjust the collar at all here. I didn't really do anything to make it bigger or more narrow, anything like that. What I did do, actually, you can't really see it, but I did in the second ribbing section, I did some short rows to raise the back a little bit. Right. I really just wanted a little something to go over this dress. I'll show you the hem of the dress because I just think it's really pretty. So it's got this little lace hem, and it's just got like a spaghetti strap type top, and it's got this little bobbly kind of vertical seam. And I just kind of thought it's nice, but when when it gets a little cooler this time of year, I want a little something over it. And cotton, if it's knit at a I'll say a tighter gauge, but not like super tight, you wouldn't want it to stand up on its own, right? But especially at worsted, it does add just a little bit of warmth. So I thought I would make it cropped little tee to go over this dress, just so I can get a little longer out of it, because I absolutely love this dress. I've had it a few years, and it's just kind of my go-to summer / fall outfit, just because it's so easy to throw on and go. Let me see what else we have to talk about. So cast ons since we talked last. Let me think. I think I cast on this and finished it. This was actually a really quick knit. Excuse me. So I'd say I knit this in like 3 or 4 days. Like, it was super quick, super duper quick. I actually want to knit another one, but I want to knit like a woolly worsted weight, maybe even DK. I think it does actually call for DK, but I could just go down a size and knit it in worsted and have a woolly kind of cozy long sleeve version of this. So I might do that at some point because that would be super duper cozy. I think that would be really nice. So I may do that. That would be nice. And as for other cast-ons, I don't have any other, I guess, pattern cast-ons that other people have designed, but I've started designing things, and I'll talk about that in another segment. So yeah, that's I think my only cast-on, I think. Yeah, I think that's just about it for cast-ons. I've been working steadily on some other things, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. So in this segment, we talk about works in progress. Another cast on is actually a sock for the Rainbow Socks Chronicles cowl. And I finished one, and I have the other one, the balls wound up, ready to go. I just haven't cast it on. And actually it's supposed to be finished today, so it's not going to be finished today, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. But this sock here is by Jules Hill, and I absolutely love her patterns. This is called the Brambleberry Socks, and I'll bring it real close so you can see these little dots, berries, if you will. And of course I did my own heel and toe, because that's just the heel and toe I find that fits me best. There is supposed to be a stitch pattern running down the top here. I didn't include it just because I find that I have a high instep. So when I wear boots that cover the top of my foot, like my Blundstones, that if there's a stitch pattern, sometimes it just pushes on the top instep of my foot, and it can just hurt. I have fibromyalgia, so maybe that's why. Maybe other people find that too. If you find that too, let me know. I don't know if it's just a fibro thing, but anyways. But I do love these socks, and oftentimes I do include the stitch pattern, but I like these so much. I think that'll be so nice sticking it over top of my boots. So I didn't want to include that because I know I will wear these with my boots. So that is all for cast-ons for September, or at least since I've talked to you last, which was, I recorded that at the end of August. So I meant to record again, like I say, the middle of September, and then everybody got sick, and so here it is, the end of September. So I've skipped a recording, and I'm just doing a little catch up with you. So I have been steadily working on the Opus Shawl by Maxim Cyr. This technically could be done. I am making it bigger than it calls for just because I like really big wraps, and I envision myself kind of being enveloped in this wrap on a cold day waiting for the kids at the bus stop, something like that. So this is the Opus Shawl. It's really quite big. Like, the end of it right now is touching the floor, and I'm sitting on a fairly tall bench. It's like one of those storage coffee table benches. I keep my yarn in this, or some of my yarn. It won't all fit in here. But anyways, so this is my Opus Shawl. So I'm using Estelle Eco Tweed. And I'm using black, light gray, I'd say like a medium gray, medium to dark gray, and red. And you can't really see too much tweediness in the other colors. The red, there is more tweed, but still not overly tweedy. So if you don't like super tweedy yarns, this is a nice one. It says DK. It's worsted spun. It's kind of a fluffy, squishy yarn. So I actually went up a needle size with this, and have been knitting it out of, it's not see-through. I can see light through it, of course, but it's not super loose like it would be if I were to knit on fingering weight yarn, which is what the pattern calls for. So I'm really enjoying it. It's really rhythmic. I talked about this last time, and I'm not sure if this was the last time I recorded that I lost the episode or last time I recorded that I uploaded the episode. I can't quite remember. But at any rate, this here, I think it was on the episode that I lost. I keep making mistakes, so we'll talk about that after. But anyways, it's really fun. It's really easy. It's sort of, it's almost too mindless in a sense, because there's still a little something you need to pay attention to. So if I'm watching TV and knitting, that's when I make mistakes. So I tend to not knit on this when I'm watching TV. Only if I'm like listening to a podcast and not watching one, or I'm just watching the kids play, that kind of thing, I can knit on this. So that's sort of my go-to knitting right now, just because it's so cozy. I can't wait for it to be finished. I do have extra yarn in the black and darker gray, or is it light gray? Light gray, I think. And I will have lots of the red left over. So I think I'll make a hat and mitts to go with it. I think I'll also be entering this in a cal, besides the Opus cal, which is going on. There's a cal being run by the Northern Knits podcast. I believe it is called Winter Gear Cal. So this is a colorwork cal. So if it's colorwork-ish, as they say. So mosaic, brioche, stranded colorwork, intarsia, any of those kind of colorworks, aside from just horizontal basic stripes. It counts. And it could be a shawl, a hat, a scarf, mittens, any kind of wintry stuff you'd wear outside, like with your winter jacket. So that will be entered into that as well. This is folded in half and it's still quite wide, and it's not stretched or blocked. So this is going to be ginormous and I'm going to love it. So that is getting a lot of love lately. And really, like I say, I could be done. So I might just finish off the light gray I have. I think I probably have about 40, maybe 50 more grams of that. And about the same of the black. So I might just knit till I get close to running out to make sure I have enough for binding off. And then I'll bind off and block and it'll be done. This cal ends, I believe, is the 8th of October. So I do have more than a week left. So I have plenty of time. But really, the rows are quite long. So I think I'm only going to get, well, I'm on the last half of a pattern repeat. So I might get the rest of that repeat and maybe one more repeat before I start getting pretty low on yarn. Maybe 2 repeats more. I don't know. I'll have to see how much I get. I might weigh it before I start the next repeat and see how much the next repeat takes and then kind of judge from there. But I do want to make it as big as possible because with me, I love really big shawls, like Stephen West big shawls, like schlankets. That's what I like. Because it's kind of like, well, it's like wearing a blanket. So if I'm outside watching the kids, or I'm waiting for the you know, bus to come for the child and I'm outside, or if it's just a chilly day and, you know, I'm just feeling extra chilly, I could just wrap up, or, you know, in a long car ride, I'd rather bring a big shawl than a winter jacket. Although if we are traveling a really long ways, like sometimes we travel 4 hours for doctor's appointments, I'll bring my jacket, but I will bring a big shawl and cover up in that in the car just driving. The other whip I've been working on is my Purl Soho half and half triangles wrap. I've made a fair bit of progress. It doesn't look like it, but this teal section I've pretty much doubled, so it's really getting there. I mean, it is taking forever, as this project does for pretty much everyone, so it's getting there. But it's great TV knitting. It's just garter stitch. I do slip the last stitch with the yarn in front and then knit it as normal going back. And what I'm doing is, as you can see here, when I get to the end of this dark blue section, I switch colors to the teal. And when I get to the end of this light blue section, I'm going to switch colors again. And I'm going to do the same when I get to the end of this teal. And then, so it's going to kind of all line up like this part. So that's what I'm working on just when I'm watching TV and I don't really want to pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm just kind of autopilot knitting. That's what I'm doing. What I am doing also is I have it on this, what do they call it? A yarn butler. So it just kind of spins as you pull it off as you're knitting. So there's no tension, there's no fighting with your ball, there's no yarn barf, there's none of that. So I really like that for autopilot knitting where you don't want to be kind of fussing. I really like it as well for color work stuff. If you're managing 2 balls of yarn, it's great for that. 2 at a time socks, great for that. So it's a good good item. I bought this at a store in St. John's here in Newfoundland, but you can buy them elsewhere. Like I think even Knit-Picks has a version. But anyways, if you Google yarn butler, I don't know what other names they go by. But anyways, that's what I'm using because I love it. Something else I've been working on is actually a work in progress I've had for quite some time here now. And the reason why it's been kind of languishing is not because I haven't, you know, had it done. Essentially, it's been done. But I was deciding how I wanted to assemble it. So it's a blanket that is compiled of squares that you seam together. It is actually called the Scandinavian Throw. I think the designer's name is Nicola. I can't remember her last name. It was a cal that was going on, I think it was in 2020. I was gonna say 2019, but it wasn't. It was 2020. So it was like sort of towards the end of winter of 2020. And it was like a 6-week cal, I think. Anyways, I joined up for it. I enjoyed it. I had, I think, pretty much everything knit except for one square that you knit multiple times. Each of the squares you knit multiple times, but anyways, the reason why that particular square had kind of stalled me, and it stalled a lot of people actually, is the chart for that square. It was a color work chart, which I've done plenty of color work, but the chart wasn't well done. It was kind of like the squares were all connected, and it was supposed to be a tree, so you couldn't really tell easily how many stitches were supposed to be your tree versus how many stitches were on either side of the tree, if that makes any sense. Anyways, a lot of people had a problem with that chart as well, and it just kept getting kind of confusing. But I do like color work, and I knit color work flat. That's not a problem. I've done that many times. Anyways, this chart I did not like. So basically, and it would seem to off-center it as well, which was another thing that was kind of irritating me. So that was the only part of the cal I didn't do, and I think a lot of people didn't. So anyways, I just omitted the trees. I did a few other squares of other squares within the pattern, and then I was kind of stuck on how I wanted to assemble it. So that was kind of where I was. So what I've decided on is, while it's a knitted item, I'm crocheting the squares together. So I will try to show you. Don't mind the ends hanging out because I haven't woven in those yet, as you do. So this is my throw. Oh my goodness. So I think that shows you pretty much all the squares. And the colors are, yeah, they're pretty true to what you're seeing here. Pretty much. So this dark gray here is where I've crocheted all those squares together. Right where my lip. And so I'm just going to crochet all the way around it. And then what I may do, once I get it blocked out and just see how it looks, is I may pick up all the way around the edge and either knit a border or crochet another row. We'll see. I'm thinking I'm going to knit a border. I do have some extra of this dark gray, and I do have some other colors. I have a little bit of this teal. That's right here. This right here. And I do have some more of this. So I might do that. But it's a nice size. It's like a one-person size kind of blanket. And this actually, I think this was a snowflake that I charted myself, because even the snowflake pattern was the same way, and I didn't like how it was, so I just basically did up my own snowflake because I did want snowflakes in it. Trees, meh, it's okay, it's nice. I thought I'd been doing up my own tree one, and it was done with intarsia as well, which intarsia is fine, but I just thought I couldn't care for the trees anyways. It basically looked like if you think of a classic Christmas tree shape, it was basically just that anyways, which wasn't anything really to write home about. But anyways, I really did enjoy this blanket, and I can't wait for it to be done. It's gonna live on my couch. It is actually just made of scraps of acrylic. I had crocheted a blanket for my oldest daughter, and I had a bunch of leftovers from whatever, 10 years ago, something like that. Longer ago, really. And I had bought a bunch of acrylic that was on clearance a number of years ago now. And I bought it because I thought, you know, for hats, for charity knitting, those kinds of things would be great. So, or blankets. I mean, when you have 3 children, you know, having a blanket made out of merino that costs $200-300, who knows how much, sitting on the back of your couch, guaranteed something is going to get spilled on it, and guaranteed it's going to get ruined, and guaranteed somebody's going to say, oh my goodness, mom's going to freak out because, you know, her expensive blanket that she spent a year making, it has juice spilt on it. I better throw it in the washer. You know what's going to happen. It's going to be like as small as a doormat when it comes out of the dryer. So I just said, you know what, like, until my kids are, you know, older and they know better and things like that, I'm okay with having acrylic blankets around. It'll stand the test of time, and it's totally fine with me. And I do have some other blankets that are sort of natural fibers, and those are long-term projects, and when they're done, they'll probably be put at the foot of my bed, so it's not really going to have juice or things spilt on it, and that's just going to be an extra layer for my bed. Mistakes. Oh, my nerves. So with the Opus Shawl, I keep knitting when I should be purling and purling when I should be knitting. I don't know how I'm making this mistake when I've done this much of it. It's mostly in this red section. I don't know. So like I say, I've reserved this for when I'm just watching the kids or listening to a podcast. I don't actually have to watch what I'm doing because that's really weird. Somebody is backing up across the bridge. Like where I'm sitting here in my living room, I can see across the river, and there's a road that kind of goes up and then kind of goes back like this, and there's a bridge here, and I can see somebody just backing up the street up over the bridge, which is very odd. So that's why I was distracted, and it's darker, so I can see their tail lights kind of backing up, and I'm like, what is going on? I don't know. Anyways, derailed. So I don't know why, but I keep making that same mistake on this red section. I don't know. So like I say, I just knit on it when I'm not watching something, and I can actually watch what I'm knitting when I get to that red row. Otherwise, if I'm not on a red row, I can knit and watch TV. Something about that red row is like throwing me off. But anyways, I'm really enjoying it. It's a great pattern. It's well written, and I would recommend it. The knit along, like I said, is going on till August. Started in August. I didn't start mine actually till September, and it's going till October 8th. So that'll be in probably less than a week by the time you see this, because I have to edit the podcast. So that is really the mistakes I've been making. I really haven't made too many other ones. My knitting's been behaving pretty good, so that's great. I don't really have any other content for this section, which is lack of content, but it's good for me. So on to the next segment. All right, so what I've been designing. So what I have designed as of lately, because I'm done the sock cowl, which I talked about in my first podcast, and I will put some pictures up on the screen here now of those socks, and links to those socks will be in the show notes in the down bar, which is just the little arrow, and you click that, or there might be a blue hyperlink that says show more, and then sort of the whole thing will drop down and you'll see all the show notes there. So if you just look there, you'll find links to these patterns, and I'll insert those here. So the first that I released in this series was the Diana socks. They are knit from the cuff down. They have a colorwork lace section around the leg, just below the ribbed cuff. And it's a heel flapping gusset construction, and there's a lace pattern going all the way down to the toe. The next sock is the Jocelyn socks, which has no ribbing. It is a fold over cuff, and there's a slip stitch pattern that goes down the front of the foot, and a short row heel, and a classic wedge toe, and a slip stitch pattern across the foot of the sock, and micro striping on the top. I'm guessing the battery just died for my little decoration here. And the third pattern that I had designed was the northern socks or slippers, because these are a worsted weight sock that is knit from the cuff down as well, with a heel flapping gusset and a ribby garter rib type texture all the way down around the leg and across the top of the foot, and the sole of the sock is stockinette. You could knit this in a Bergen Little Tuffy, which has a nylon content, which is what I used. You could also knit this in acrylic for a gift for somebody who maybe doesn't know how to take care of wool. I know there's people who I know that just would not have the time to wash and lay socks flat to dry, or the ability necessarily. It just depends on their lifestyle, I suppose. But acrylic socks, there's lots of people who love acrylic socks. I have friends who would wear acrylic socks and actually would probably prefer them over wool. Actually, I know knitters who will not knit with wool. In fact, they're allergic to it. So this is a great sock for that kind of need, and you could add leather to the sole, or even a faux leather. I use like a suede kind of leather patch from, I think it's called Wool Trends, I think is the brand. And that's all in the pattern anyways. And you can do that and make them slippers, and you can make them short, you can make them long, entirely up to you. They're really cozy. I like to wear them around the house. I do have a pair that's more socks than slippers because I didn't do the leather patch, but I wear them in bed when my feet are cold at night, and they just kind of live in my nightstand, and that's what I pull on if my feet get cold. So my most recent design is a dishcloth. It's crocheted, and it starts off with this little loop, and it's done in sort of a mitered square kind of fashion. And it's super easy. I think it's great for beginners. I did this kind of coral one. I did this brown one. And I'm going to do some stripy versions of these colors. And I'm going to make a little gift set actually. And after I take pictures and things, I'm going to give this to my husband's grandmother. It was her birthday. I wasn't feeling well, like I had said, so I didn't get together with her for her birthday. But I have some other things for her. But I know she likes knitted and crocheted items. And so I know she'll appreciate this. She actually handed me some dishcloths last Christmas, and I absolutely love them. So she's definitely a knit-worthy person, so I will definitely make some more of these with some stripy versions. And when I get the pattern wrote up, I will get it tested, and that'll be another pattern. And of course I will announce that here on the podcast once it's done. But so far I have just the two, and they're so quick to do. I actually did one of these in I think 30 minutes. So that's pretty good. And they are a nice size. I didn't actually measure them just yet. But, I mean, my hand, like, is actually quite big. So, yeah. That's a new design. I haven't actually come up with a name for this one yet. But what I might do is throw that out there to you. If you can think of a name for this dishcloth and I like the name and I choose it, I will gift the pattern to you once it's done. And if you prefer that on Ravelry, I can do that. If you prefer that as just a PDF sent to your email, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. And I'll get that pattern to you if you name my pattern. So life, let's see here, what's been going on? Like I said, everybody in the house had gotten sick. My computer crashed. It's been a crazy month, but things are starting to settle down again, and we're starting to get back into, I guess, the swing of things. My husband really hasn't missed much work. He works from home, so it doesn't matter if he's per se sick when he goes to work, as long as of course he has energy and stuff to do so. So he hasn't been too sick to go to work. He's been not well, definitely, but at least he's not going to make anybody sick at work because he works here in our house over the phone. So, and yeah, so my kids are going to school. So far there hasn't been any COVID outbreaks to start doing homeschooling again like there was last year. And well, the baby's only 2, so she's not going to school yet. She's doing really good. She's able to now get herself on her hands and her knees, like in a crawling position by herself. And kind of like, if you've ever had a baby or maybe babysat babies and noticed that at give or take 6 months, sometimes a little older, they start doing this where they get on their hands and knees and they kind of rock back and forth, like, you know, and she didn't do that at that age because of her cerebral palsy, but she's now, well, she turned 2 in July, so she's older than 2 now, really. It's been a few months, but she's just starting to do that now. We're super proud of her. She's so cute. So when I sit down with my husband to talk about her again,
to do another Marvellous news segment. We'll be catching up to all that, but she's too stinking cute. She's very talkative, and you know, she's actually down the hall with my husband right now, just hanging out with him. And yeah, so that's the family news. That's what's been going on here. What else is there to talk about? Gosh, the MCAL, Stephen West MCAL. I don't know about you all, but I am so excited for the Stephen West MCAL. I did the one last year, and I actually survived it. And I actually knit it all on time, got it all done. And I mean, I haven't actually wore the shawl, but I feel like some of his shawls and patterns are kind of like a work of art. Like you just want to knit it for the experience and for the hype, and then to look at it because it's amazing. Maybe I'll pull it out for the next podcast, because I will have either cast on or, you know, close to casting on for the MCAL, and I'll show you my colors for the MCAL. I sometimes go with really wild colors with his shawls, and other times I go more subdued and neutral. So it really all depends on what's in my stash, and I like to have a variety of colors. I'm not one person who's like, oh, I only wear neutrals, or I only wear cool tones. I wear everything. And I kind of have my capsule-ish wardrobe where I have my clothes are neutral. As you can see, my dress is white. I have a number of black / gray, you know, dresses and things like that. I do have some colorful clothing as well, but I have a lot of neutral clothing because I really like colorful knitting and crochet. So that's where I pull my colors from usually when it comes to my wardrobe. So there's that. So what else is there to talk about? Today here in Canada is National Truth and Reconciliation Day. This is a new thing because here in Canada it's been sort of a new discovery-ish. Not a new discovery, it was discovered ages ago, but it's kind of like, well, I'll explain it to you and then you'll see. So years and years ago, and you can Google this is not hidden information by no means. I mean, it was for quite some time, but there was a thing called residential schools here in Canada. And I don't know if they had this exact same thing in other parts of the world, but here in Canada, there was residential schools where people who were Indigenous, meaning that you are a person who originated here in Canada before settlers from Europe came over, and you know, you're a person of color, so you would have like an olive skin tone, a tan skin tone, a reddish skin tone. Sometimes people who are Indigenous could be referred to as Aboriginal, Native, Indian. Some of those terms are kind of offensive. So the politically correct term would be Indigenous. And so there's sort of this is a new thing now that is being, I guess, not even implemented, and that's sad really, but it's a day where businesses could choose to close their business for that day to show respect for the Indigenous families who have had family members that were a part of these residential schools. These residential schools were school-age children who were taken from their families, and these were all Indigenous children, and were run by white people from various parts of the world who had settled here in Canada. I would say mainly Europe, and basically they had made these schools where they would take Indigenous children from their homes, bring them to these schools where they would live and not go home at the end of the day. And they were forced to not speak their language, forced to wear clothes that didn't represent their culture, forced to learn things in the way of like education that's teaching them how to not be native, not be Indigenous, not be Aboriginal. They were punished severely if they spoke their own language, things like that. And I mean, these punishments were harsh. Lots of these children were starved to death, were beaten to death, were punished to the point that they succumbed to injuries and died. There were mass murders that had happened, mass graves that had been found, where, you know, hundreds of children had been murdered and buried in a mass grave. That's been a thing. So that's quite disturbing, and that's a part of Canada's history that had been unspoken. I speak of this today being that it's what they call Truth and Reconciliation Day, and not just because it's Truth and Reconciliation Day, but because this affects my family. In case you hadn't known, I am a BIPOC maker. I am part Indigenous, and so therefore my ancestors had been a part of this, have been affected by this quite a bit. And even things like after these Indigenous schools had ended, which this had continued for quite some time. This isn't like it ended in 1952. Like, no, this ended, I think it might have been the 80s that they stopped doing Indigenous schools. I was born in 82. Luckily, I had never been to an Indigenous drafted school where, you know, these children were taken from their homes and oftentimes never returned. So luckily that hadn't been the case for me, but I'm sure that had been the case for many of my ancestors. And even I know that a lot of my ancestors had changed their names to English so that they could get jobs. Had lied about their birth history, their birth records had been burned in fires by themselves and other natives, so that way there'd be no record or proof that they were native. And that was easily enough done, because if you look at least my native history, that if you take somebody who is native and you take somebody who is, say, European, Caucasian, and you mix the DNA there, the children won't look very Indigenous. In fact, they'll look, because it's a mixture, right? It's biracial. So oftentimes these children, especially once they became adults, would look more white. So they could pass as white. So yeah, that's why I guess people could pass as, you know, an English person and get a job, as opposed to, you know, not pass and, you know, go with their native name and not get a job. So that's a thing that had happened. It's all across Canada. It's not just here in Newfoundland. There had been a huge discovery in British Columbia, Canada. And there's Orange Shirt Day, which is today, where, you know, people wear orange shirts. And usually it'll have a slogan on it that says "Every child matters." And so that's what Truth and Reconciliation Day is about. So I thought I'd bring that up because a lot of people don't know that I'm a BIPOC maker. And I guess because I'm not fully Indigenous, so, and my skin tone has lightened quite a bit over the years, which is a thing. I had talked to a number of people who are, I'll say, experts in the way of this type of thing, you know, genetics and stuff like that. And he said that's very common, that even if you're just partially, just like a quarter European, that oftentimes you don't have the dark skin anymore, or your dark skin lightens over time. Also have some health issues that could be affecting that. So I don't have super tan skin anymore, but I used to. But I am part Indigenous, and thus my children are. So I thought I'd bring that up today, being that it is Truth and Reconciliation Day. So if you don't know about that, you can Google it and find all kinds of information. I will warn you that it is graphic. It is not for sensitive people. It is not for young people necessarily. It is something that should be talked about to your children, at least at an age appropriate level. So that's something that is something to sort of bear in mind and maybe think about today. And I know that you'll be watching this not on Truth and Reconciliation Day, but the 30th of September is Truth and Reconciliation Day. And wearing an orange shirt signifies that here in Canada. So schools actually have closed down for today, but so everybody wore their orange shirts yesterday. But any stores and things that are open today, people would be wearing an orange shirt if they have the means to do so. So that is all that I really have to say for that. And if you have any questions about it, you know, you can pop it in the comments below. If you have any questions about my patterns or anything like that, or even in any Marvellous news segments, you can ask questions in the comments below, within reason, obviously, if the question's respectful and you know, not intrusive, because everybody's entitled to their privacy, of course. But yeah, so that's all for today, I think. So thank you so much for tuning in. I might have to check out to see, get a new battery for this. I just bought this not long ago, and actually today was the first time I used it, so I'm not very impressed. So we'll see. I'm sure I can get a new battery for it. But one other thing, knitting wise. So I want to knit some, you know, those banners that have like leaves and pumpkins and things like that. Susan B. Anderson does one. They're super cute. I want to make a little banner for up here. A little, I think that'll be super, super duper cute. So I want to do that for the fall, and I've been wanting to kind of do one for every season. I don't know that I'll get them all done this year, but I do want to do one for each season. So in the fall, I would have one like that up here, and in the winter, I would have a different one. And anyways, I think it'll be super cute. So that's what I want to do. That's some things kind of on the horizon. Another thing kind of on the horizon for knitting would be possibly a love note sweater. I've been wanting to do one of these for ages. And Professor Purl, she has podcasts. Her name's Nicole. So she's doing I think she's calling it a love note, love cow, or maybe I'm just making it up. Maybe it's just love note cow, something like that. But she's doing one, and she's doing like a live YouTube video and cast on parties. So I may join that. I didn't join the Hohi fall cow. Not that I don't have enough Hohi patterns or even yarn lined up for Hohi patterns, but anyways, I just really had so much on the go that I wasn't sure that I could commit to doing a sweater, but the love note was really quick, so I hear. I've never knit one. I do have some pink DK yarn, and the sweater I believe is DK weight. So I may do a gauge swatch with that just to see if I get the correct gauge. That would be great if I do, because then I could just cast on and go. And I know a lot of people do it with mohair. I do have a cropped mohair tee, Ranunculus actually, that I do like, but I don't have any mohair currently. And I think the cast on is soon, so I wouldn't really have time to order mohair. So I don't know if I'll bother getting mohair or not, but I think the cast on is like next week or something, and I think the cal is going on for a couple of months, or maybe, yeah, I think it is something into November, and it's not a sweater that takes a long time, so I hear. So maybe I'll check out the dates and times, and maybe I'll order some mohair to go with my DK, which I think a lot of people are doing fingering and mohair, so I have some options there as well. But I don't like the super sheer sweaters. It's just not me. I like more of an opaque thing, even though I would probably wear a tank top underneath. I'm not into sheer sweaters. Speaking of the ranunculus, I did have one on the needles, and I believe I showed it to you before. I think I'm gonna rip out the hem and redo it. So this is ranunculus that I have on the needles. It is a little bit sheer. It's hard to really tell here, but there you go. It's a little bit sheer. But I didn't really like how the hem was. I did some alterations. I put it on. I didn't really like it, so I may just rip that out. But my 11-year-old daughter really likes it, so I may rip it out and do just like a t-shirty kind of one for her. I'm not sure, but anyways, that one's kind of in timeout, so to speak, because I don't really know what to do with it. I haven't really decided, so I haven't worked on it. That's why I didn't show it in the whip segment, because I haven't worked on it since ages. Yeah, so I don't know if I had it on the needles in my first episode. Can't remember if I did or not. But anyways, I really haven't worked on it since. So that's why I didn't show it, like I said. And I don't think I have anything else. I have like everything laid out around here. You see it. It's a hot mess. So yeah, I think that's just about it. I have a few other things on the go, but nothing I've really worked on, so not going to show it. But yeah, that's all that I think is on the horizon for that kind of stuff. In the way of some Mel's and giveaways and things like that. There's a few going on. There's the Rainbow Socks Chronicles by Jules Hill. There is the Winter Gear Cal by the Northern Knits Girls. And there is the Purl Soho Half and Half Triangles wrap that's being run by the Caddy Jacks Knits podcast. There is a dishcloth revolution cal going on by Chip and Aaron of the Fibre Hustle podcast, and I am joining their Zoom on, I believe it's the 3rd of October. It's all in my email and calendar and stuff. And I believe it is a Zoom meeting they're doing, and me and however many other people are joining. And I think they're doing it over like a couple of days, so that way it's not like 500 people in the one Zoom meeting, and you know, it's just, I guess it may seem more, I guess, personal that way, rather than like so many people that, you know, it's hard to communicate with that many people, right? So maybe that's why they're doing that. But anyways, so that's partly what inspired me to do this dishcloth, because I kind of wanted a nice, easy watch TV, get her done, and have a nice dishcloth in the end. So that's partly why I designed that, because one, we're doing this dishcloth thing, and two, I wanted to design one anyway. So I designed one. So I don't know that the pattern will necessarily be out and released by then, but that's the hope. Anyways, so yeah, I don't think there's any other patterns floating around there that I'm thinking of doing. I think that's just about it. Although I do have to pick a sock pattern by Jules Hill for the October socks. I might do the flossy socks by Jules Hill, maybe. There's she has a couple of sock patterns that have like some lacy details, so I might do that because the yarn that I've chosen is actually the socks down there, but it's actually the same color as the toe on the Brambleberry socks that I showed you earlier. And so where it's kind of a tonal, it'll be nice in a lace pattern, so I might choose something kind of lacy by her. And there's actually another sock cal going on that I'm joining or have joined. It's by the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast. Allie is the host. She's super cute, super fun. She does vlogs. She's like super mom, super podcaster. She designs crochet things. She runs cals. She knits and crochets. She's amazing. I can't even say anymore. She's amazing. And yeah, so she's running the Strictly Sock Cal, which runs September through to January, I think. And anyways, she's been doing this a few years now, and it's just super fun. Strictly is like it's called Strictly Come Dancing. It's like a celebrity dance-off type show, from my understanding. I've never watched it. We don't actually have like cable or satellite or stuff like that here. We do stream like Netflix and Disney Plus and stuff like that for the kids, and we watch things on those as well. But yeah, we don't have like a cable type service like that. So I don't know if I can get what she watches anywhere else. I mean, probably I could probably find it somewhere on the internet, but even like the dancing type shows that are over here in North America, I don't tend to watch those either. So I probably wouldn't, even if it was readily available to me. But she totally encourages cheating. She's hilarious. So you don't actually have to watch the show and knit socks. You can just knit socks. That's, I guess, one easy cheat. So anyways, she's hilarious. You have to go watch her if you haven't already. So that one's going on, and I think that's just about it. So I think I will call it a night. It's actually pretty dark here, but because of my light, it looks somewhat light. You can see I'm casting a shadow here now because the light, it's kind of like one of those ring lights that is like right in front of me. So anyways, I'm gonna go before I totally lose my voice. I'm gonna get a warm cup of tea and settle in with some knitting for tonight. And hopefully I will still have a voice tomorrow. So thank you again for watching the podcast, and thank you so much for commenting if you do, liking, subscribing, all that fun stuff. And if you click the bell icon, you'll get notifications when I upload another podcast, and that way you'll know to watch it later when you get time, and you don't have to kind of go searching, right? I do that as well for you know, podcasts that I like to keep up on. It's pretty easy because I just kind of, on my phone, you can kind of drop down all the notifications, so I'll scroll through and go, oh, Jules has a new podcast out, or oh, look, Allie's got another one, or oh, the Fat Squirrel Speaks got another one. So I just kind of, I'll see them and then I'll tap on it and it'll bring me right to their podcast. So anyways, I think it's a great little tool to kind of keep up with all the various podcasts, because I have like hundreds that I've subscribed to, and some of them are just kind of channels that do tutorials, and some of them are actually sewing ones because I sew as well. And some of them are just kind of like I'm actually subscribed to Firefly, which is a company in the UK that makes special needs equipment. So we have some Firefly products for the baby. I say baby, she's going on 2.5. I don't know. She'll always be the baby, right? I don't know. But anyways, I do have some sewing plans, so I don't know if you're all interested in that or not, but I could speak about it on my next podcast if you are. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to hear about sewing stuff. So I'm not talking about sewing to people who don't want to hear sewing, but if you want to hear about it, I'll talk about it. I've already made a number of quilts and things. It's mostly quilting really that I do. So if that piques your interest, let me know. And until then, make something marvelous.